Good evening and welcome to the Lopatcong Township Planning Board meeting of October 26, 2016. At this time, I'd like to invite you to join us in a silent moment of prayer, followed immediately by the oath of allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'm required to state that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided indicating the time and place of the meeting in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975 by advertising notice in the Star Gazette in the Express Times and by posting a copy on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Beth, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes, members Scott.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Trustee.
Here.
Pryor.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Mayor McKay.
Here.
Vice Chairman Brown. Chairman Van Vliet.
Here.
Alternate 1 Fishback and alternate 2.
Okay, we have a quorum. We'll move on to old business. The only item under the old business is approval of the special meeting we had April 21st, 2016. Has everyone received a copy of those minutes? And are there any additions, corrections, or comments on those meetings? Hearing none, those meetings will stand as published. Move on to new business. We have an application from Coordinated Health Major Site Plan Application, Block 85, Lot 5, for completeness and hearing. Is the applicant here?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Members of the board, professionals, Ms. Dill, public. For the record, my name is Mark Peck. I'm an attorney with the Florio Perucci Steinhardt and Fader Law Firm, here representing the applicant, Phillipsburg Properties Group, on behalf of the Coordinated Health Phase 2 application located at 222 Red School Lane, which is also known as Block 85, Lot 5. Previously, that was Lot 5 and Lot 5.01, but in connection with an earlier approval, we did merge those lots and provided copies of the merger deed to the township. And I know we have to get to completeness first before we can go on, but I'll just give a quick preamble and overview of why I'm standing here before you today. The subject property is just less than a 10.5 acre lot, 10.46 acres. It's primarily in your professional office or PO zone district. There's a very small portion in your R75 zone district, but all of the contemplated improvements tonight are only in the PO zone district. And we're here tonight seeking approval to construct an approximately 21,500 square foot, I believe it's actually 21,507 square foot ambulatory surgical center, which will be phase 2 to the existing coordinated health facility on Red School Lane. That is a permitted use in your PO zone district. We are here for preliminary and final site plan approval. We're looking for, and again, this is depending on Mr. Ritter, Mr. Sturbins, Mr. Spicero, but by my calculation, 2 bulk variances and 1 design waiver. Maybe more, there may be less. We'll determine that as the night goes on. But again, first we need to be deemed complete. We did see Mr. Sturbins' review letter of October 21, which indicated that the only outstanding issue was the Highlands consistency determination. We did receive that yesterday, a letter from the Highlands Council dated October 25th, which I know Mr. Sturbins, Mr. Ritter were copied on. I believe you were as well, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, a copy of yours.
So I think, I think we're okay, but we have to go through the formalities, and if we could have a completeness determination so we could proceed, that would be greatly appreciated.
Mr. Chairman, at the last meeting, we had reviewed this application for completeness. We had approved a bunch of waivers as part of that review, but notwithstanding, we did deem it incomplete. There were 4 items that were identified as deficiencies. The applicant addressed 3 of those with the resubmission. The last item that was remaining was the Highlands Council consistency determination. As Mr. Peck had indicated, that letter was issued yesterday by the Executive Director, Margaret Nordstrom, and was distributed to the professionals And some of the board members, I actually distributed to all the board members later on as part of a email that I sent to one of the board members on a particular matter. So I believe all the board members have that letter. So it's my recommendation, since all the deficiencies we identified at the last meeting have been addressed, we deem this application to be complete, and we move into a public hearing tonight on the application.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve completeness on the project.
I'll make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll make that motion.
Beth, roll call, please.
Members Fox,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Wojciechowski,
Yes.
Fryer,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Gay,
Yes.
Chairman Bentley.
Yes. Thank you very much. I guess you're deemed complete.
Thank you very much, and we're very appreciative of this determination. And as a preliminary matter, we did publish and serve the required notice, and we did provide Ms. Diltz with the necessary affidavits. So I believe jurisdiction is properly before this board, and we can proceed. Again, we're seeking preliminary and final site plan approval. We're looking for, again, by my calculation, 2 variances. The first of which is a bulk variance to permit a retaining wall in excess of 2 feet in height in your front setback area. And there's also an issue with parking. Our plans, and as Mr. Sturbins indicated, we did have the opportunity to meet with Mr. Sturbins after our initial submission to review the plans, and we did revise them after we met with Mr. Sturbins. We did also speak with Mr. Ritter on the telephone, and we're grateful for that opportunity. So there's a question with parking, but we do, technically we do need a variance. Your ordinance requires 357 parking spaces. Our plans as currently constituted call for 355 parking spaces, so there's a deficit of 2. But that possibly, based on our testimony and based on the board's opinion and your professionals' recommendations, that may be reduced further based on how we slice the onion here tonight. But those are the 2 variances we're looking for. We're also looking for a design waiver that has to do with landscaping, basically the landscaping mix. Our plan right now shows 21% evergreen, where your ordinance requires 50%. We put that out there, and Coordinated Health, I believe, has been a good neighbor to the surrounding residents. They want to remain being a good neighbor. So whatever the board, whatever the residents want in terms of buffering, in terms of landscaping, so long as it's reasonable, we don't want to have to, replant a redwood forest or something like that. But so long as there's, reasonable accommodations, we're more than happy to work with the board and with the neighbors to find the most satisfactory outcome with that. But that is a design waiver
We thank you for
that
that.
we're looking for. So anyway, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. I have tonight Mr. John Colagrandi, our engineer from Pannoni. He's going to be our primary witness tonight, giving testimony. But I also have from Makeda Properties, Mr. Michael Campion, who's the facilities manager for Makeda Properties. They are the property managers and development team that oversees Coordinated Health, and also Christos Santos from Coordinated Health, who, they can answer any questions, they can fill in the blanks as the board may have questions. So without any further ado, I'd like to call Mr. John Colagrandi.
Please. Swear you in. Raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony that you give in this matter. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
State your name for the record. Swear to that.
John Colagrande, Colagrande. Employed by Pannoni, 24 Commerce Way, Newark, New Jersey.
Your witness.
John, would you give the board, before we get going, would you give the board the benefit of your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in civil engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology. Graduated 1990, 1994, respectively. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, been licensed since 2001. I've provided testimony before planning boards and zoning boards in the state of New Jersey for the last 10 years on various land use applications. Also have done some testimony up in New York State and Pennsylvania.
And just to clarify, you have been accepted as an expert before New Jersey land use boards?
Yes, I have. numerous.
And the plans that you were about to present to the board, did you have a part in preparing those?
Yes, the plans that the board has in front of them were prepared under my direction by my team of civil engineers and designers in our North New Jersey office.
I would know Mr. Colagrande as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
He is acceptable.
Thank you very much.
So where would be the best place for me to set up the tripod? Where would the board prefer to set up camera?
Probably right over there, because there's a microphone hanging from the ceiling there that would help with recording.
Okay.
And do we need to mark these plans? I mean, they have been submitted as part of the application, but if you'd like, we can mark them as
Unless they.
the whole set is
Unless they're
A1.
different in some way from what was submitted.
Okay.
They're no different than the plans that you have.
Go ahead, please.
John, the floor is yours.
All right. So the first plan I'll call your attention to is the demolition plan. It shows the existing conditions on site as they are today. There's the existing one-story medical building, the parking lot in the front along Red School Lane, and the rear parking lot, which abuts the neighborhood, the residential neighborhood. It also shows the access out the back along South 7th Street, and the current driveway along the northern side of the property, which exits out onto Red School Lane. There's currently two above-ground detention basins out in front, and a large portion of the southern side of the property is currently lawn with some trees mixed in. It really about sums up this sheet. All the good stuff's on the next sheet.
I have a quick recap.
Yes,
As
sir.
we're going through this, can you point out specifically what has changed from the previous submission that we took a look at last time?
Oh, sure.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this shows, this is for the record, it's drawing CS1001 site plan. And this sheet shows all the improvements that the applicant would like to make to this site. So the applicant proposes a 21,507 square foot medical facility for ambulatory surgery to be located on the southern portion of the property. The applicant would like to add some additional parking in the front to accommodate patients, as well as some additional parking in the back for staff. There'll be a new dumpster enclosure to accommodate the waste from the site, proposed generator, and a new, I'll get to it on the next sheet, but there'll be two underground detention systems to handle the stormwater runoff generated by all the new impervious material. Some of the things that have changed since the last time is, in order to satisfy the 30-foot separation from the building for the fire access, we relocated the dumpster area a little further away from the building. We moved the proposed generator more interior to the property. We redesigned the parking in this front section in the southeast corner of the property to do two things. One, it provides separation from the building of 30 feet, and two, it gets the parking lot out of the front yard setback, which was a comment on one of the initial review letters. Those are really the main features that were changed between the last application and this application. So as I was saying, there's a new part of this application is to enhance the parking lot in the rear of the property. So that would be additional parking spaces, and then ingress and egress on South 7th Street. Curbing, we're widening the driveway to meet the code requirements for the town. And then additional parking in the front with a new driveway on Red School Lane Road. And again, the width was adjusted to 25 feet to meet the requirements of the last letter. Ingress and egress out to complement what's currently here. And then both parking lots will be connected. Now, because of the grading on site, Kind of starts, it slopes towards the south, and it gets a little more severe as you work your way towards the rear of the property or to the southern end of the property. So there'll be a couple of retaining walls interior to the property. There'll be some retaining walls along the south side of the property, at the rear of the building. And as we stated earlier, Mr. Peck stated earlier, there'll be a retaining wall on the front of the property. I'll get to it on the next sheet, but this is in the area where the proposed underground detention system is going to be installed. So with the grades as they are, to get the system in place, we need to build a wall that contains the system.
So John, just so we're clear, so the wall that's going to be in the front setback area, and I know you're going to get to that on the next sheet.
Yeah.
But that's necessary because of the grading in order to have the detention basin and the stormwater management system. There has to be a wall, unfortunately, in excess of 2 feet, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
How high are you looking?
The highest point wall is, I think, 4'9" tall. Okay, so next sheet is the grading and drainage plan. It's sheet CS1501. This sheet is showing how we're going to rework the existing grades on site to accommodate the improvements. In the southern rear part of the property near 7th Street, we show an underground detention system. This will capture the runoff, the stormwater runoff from the rear of the property. It'll put it into this system. The system is a sealed system. Okay, it's packed in dense graded aggregate. There's a concern in town of limestone, so we don't want the water to penetrate into the soil and possibly get into the limestone and create issues. From there, it feeds into what we call a jellyfish filter, which brings the water, cleans the water, gets the solids out of the water so we can meet the DEP regulations. And then it puts it into the stormwater system of the municipality. Likewise, in the front, we did the same thing. We graded the parking lots and have a detention system up front, which is basically operates the same way, captures the water, cleans the water, puts the water out of the system. We submitted full stormwater calculations to Mr. Sturbins for review. So all that has been documented, as well as a maintenance plan. We also submitted as well to provide direction on how often the filter should be checked and cleaned and how often the system should be checked to make sure it's functioning as it should be.
Were you unable to get your stormwater, proper stormwater detention by using basins like on the other side of the property? Do you have to go underground? Or was it a choice?
It was more difficult to try to get the basins in because of the grades. The slopes, things start getting really high and really steep. Plus the option now is we weren't 100% clear on whether we're going to get a parking variance. So if we do have to put parking spaces back in, we still have this area to put parking back in if we need to. But the intent was not to put the parking there. But a lot of that depends on how things go tonight, what we can and can't do. So we're good. Okay. The next sheet is just profiles of the road on the driveway, indicating sight lines and road profiles. Nothing really much to say here. Utility plan showing how utilities are going to get into the site. In the rear of the property right now, there's just a utility pole and a transformer feeding the property. That will be used for the electric. And communications also comes off of an existing pole in the back, so telephone and internet. And the existing building connects to a sewer line, which runs out towards 7th. That would also be reconnected to as well. And then water will come in from the rear property where the existing water comes in right now. So all the utilities are in place. We've addressed that. We sent out will serve letters to all the utility companies. We're starting to hear back. There's really no issue so far as to them to be able to provide utilities to us. And if approved by the board, we'll continue to coordinate with utility companies to get the permits in place to get the connections made. Next sheet is just utility profiles, where we identify how the utility to run underground to make sure nothing conflicts. Nothing really much there. And we get to the landscape plan. So we complemented the existing landscaping on site, especially around the perimeter, to try to mimic what was currently in place at the facility. So where we're short on evergreens, we've only, when we were out there and observed the site, we're sticking with the ratios that we're currently. If the board wants us to increase evergreens and decrease the percentage of the studios, we can do that as well, but we're just trying to remain consistent with what we saw. But we did provide the 25-foot landscape buffer around the perimeter. We provided trees within the parking areas as well. And we're doing our best to meet the intent of the ordinance with regards to the 25-foot landscape buffer.
In the center between the two buildings,
The
there
lawn
are
area,
3 or 4 trees.
those big ones?
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to be remaining.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it seemed like in some other details that you have things going right through them. Maybe on the next.
We have a sewer line that we're tapping into here, but it's right at the edge of the trip line for the trees, so we're not going to need to do anything. That the tree should be fine.
Okay.
Alright, and then finally, we did a lighting plan for all the parking lot lightings, so we can adequately, the lighting proposed for the new area is consistent with the lighting that's currently on site right now, and really not much to say there. It's a lighting plan.
Could you go over that, please, in a little more detail? Some people expressed an interest in that.
Okay, sure.
Where the poles are going to be, and
Okay, so
there's a concern about too much light and so on for
All right.
some of the surrounding residents.
Okay, so the poles, wherever we have a parking area, it's probably better to go back to the site plan. So wherever we're installing parking spaces and parking lots, we have to obviously provide lighting. So there will be pole-mounted lights around the perimeter coming in to the facility. There'll be some lighting around here to light this, and then lighting interior to this. We tried to design the lighting so that there will be not, the backlight won't go over the property line to the extent possible, but we'll provide adequate lighting into the parking lot. And we do have a 31-foot setback. So with that in mind, going back to the other sheet. Now, at the property line, we're actually registering 0 to 0.1 foot candles, which is extremely minimal. 0 obviously is no ambient light spilling over. That's not to say that the residents won't see the light in the distance. Obviously they will, but that light will not encroach upon their property to the point where they'll be able to read a book by it or anything strange like that. So.
Will there be any more lighted signs anyplace?
Well, the signs are all going to be handled via separate application. So we're not in a position to, I'm not in a position to speak about that tonight.
Yeah, we don't have any sign package tonight. We'll come back.
Is the parking lot on a timer situation? They go off at a certain time in the evening, or they burn all night long?
The intent at this point was to have them burn all night long, but we could, if need be, amended, but for security and whatnot.
Okay.
That's the way we prefer to do it.
Mr. Pellegrin, I have a question concerning the variance for the wall. Mr. Peck asked you what lawyers fondly refer to as a leading question. It's like, I'd like to hear from your mouth why you need the variance, and if you could, then I may have a couple of other questions.
Sure. As I stated earlier, in the front where the detention system is, okay, we have to address the grading issue. So there was a couple of things at play. One was, if we build a basin, a traditional basin, what kind of slopes are that going to create on the property? Are they going to be steep slopes? We don't want steep slopes. That creates a whole other erosion issue. That was one thing we considered. The second thing we considered was, we originally had parking over that area, which we pulled back, and we're going to ask for a parking variance. Weren't sure if we were going to get it. Wasn't sure if you guys were going to ask me to put the parking back. So we left that alone. And that's the reason why. We couldn't get it underground at the proper elevations with the current grading. So we had to build a wall to enhance the grading to get it underground at the elevations that would allow us to drain it out.
Any negative impact as a result of the wall pipe?
In terms of,
Any detriment to the public good?
I don't think so. We are proposing a fence on top, in case anybody's walking on the grass, they don't fall off.
I believe there's a comment in one of the reports about the side.
Yeah,
the fence.
yes, and we'll concede.
But the
Yeah.
fence is designed to address any public health or safety concerns there would be with a wall that's too high, correct?
Right. There are codes in place for fall protection, and we're going to adhere to those. So it'll be what we will ultimately discuss when we get to the review letter is it'll be a 42-inch high fence.
And is it your opinion that this will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan, zoning ordinance?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Additionally, one of the comments, which we can get to later, was that maybe we provide some landscaping in front of the wall, and we'd certainly be amenable to that as well.
While we're dealing with the wall and the fence, what's your proposal in light of the comment contained in one of the professionals' reports? There was a comment that the wall is 8 feet and it seemed excessively high.
I believe it's the fence that was across.
Yeah. That
We're gonna cut that down.
we're going to cut that down to 42 inches.
42 inches.
42 or 4 feet,
I think the code says 42, but I'll double check.
whatever the code
The
says.
code says it'll be code compliant, but it won't be any taller than 4 feet.
I think I saw comments somewhere that you were changing a chain link fence
To a decorative
steel
fence.
fence.
Yeah.
Or
To make it more appealing.
Thank you.
walls are on the subject of the
Sure.
wall. What material are you going to be making the wall out of? Poured concrete or?
We have a detail. Jump down to CS 6001, we have a detail of the retaining wall. What that is it's pre-manufactured stones, like blocks. Typically, people might know them as uniblocks or plate and block. So it's manufactured block. They use geogrids to support the lateral pressures behind the wall. One of the comments I believe Mr. Turbins had was to discuss, how the design would impact the underground detention system, which we'll address with Mr. Turbins as a condition of approval, and that's fine. We'll work through that with the professional.
I was just looking at the decorative value of the wall.
Well, they're intended to be decorative as opposed to just doing a poured-in-place concrete wall.
Can I ask one or two questions, please? And I'm not sure if you're the right person to answer.
Sure.
And I think the last time I saw the plan, I was actually sitting on the other side. But when you guys came first here, right, for the original building, right, I think you promised the public things, like there will be a walkway for the public and a park and a sitting area, and there will be a walkway. Maybe Tommy can help me with that?
I have a big recollection.
Yeah, I believe that the public was opposed to that, though, at the end. because it would have been an
We
attraction.
discussed that before. There was a lot of opposition. There was some preliminary discussion, but it was omitted from the final plan.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were willing to do it, but there was opposition to it, thinking it would attract people after hours and become sort of an attractive nuisance type situation. So again, we're happy to accommodate. but-
I was just, I remember that was something which you guys said you wanted to do, and I don't know what happened to it, so I didn't know about the opposition, I had no idea. If that was, and the second question, I have the wall, right? Is that going where Red School Lane is meeting Baltimore?
No.
No.
Well, I'll show you the wall.
And John, if you offer some testimony as to like how long the wall would be, especially how long the wall would be in excess of 2 feet in the front setback area?
It was, as I stated earlier, there's several retaining walls throughout the property. There is a wall starting out at South 7th. That road's going to run along the rear of the building. Okay, we have to level the building pad to accommodate the structure. Okay, at the top point here, the wall is approximately a foot tall. And then as we work down, it's still a foot as we make the bend. As we come all the way down, we're talking 2 to 3 feet. And then way down in front here where everybody's concerned because it's in the setback.
But that's where Baltimore meets Red School Lane, right?
Well, Baltimore meets Red School Lane way down here.
Okay.
We're a couple 100 feet away from there.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, so we're back up over here. The wall's actually, I can tell you, this is a 30 scale. Okay, so we're about 180 feet
Okay,
away from the corner.
thanks.
So the area in question where the variance is required is up front.
Cool.
I don't remember your original site plan. Did it have the secondary access point?
This driveway?
Yeah,
Yes.
was that was intended to be?
That was always part of it.
Are you proposing the fence on top of the wall only when the wall is 2 feet or greater, or will the fence go all along the wall?
It'll go along the wall adjacent to the parking lot and then along the front. I think we have it on the site plan.
And how about what's the wall height between the 2 parking lots?
Okay, we'll see it. So the fence, we have it shown on the plan, basically just in this L.
Okay.
Okay? And the wall height of the parking lot is about 2.5 feet, 1 foot, so between 1 and 2.5 feet.
I had an observation. It appeared to me that some of the wall along the frontage there where parallels Red School Lane could be taken out. We could actually do some grading.
Yeah, we could certainly entertain that and work with you on that, and, yeah, by all means, we're not closed-minded at all.
So you'll take a look at it.
Yeah, we'll reach out to you and get your opinions and see what we can do.
Yeah, I think at the southeast corner of the parking lot, the wall was almost 5 feet high. I don't think that would be a location to take the wall out, but as that wall moves northward, I think the disparity between the grades along the right-of-way line, the Red School Lane, and the grades for the curbing in the parking lot there isn't as great of a disparity, so I think you could grade that out.
Okay. Well, we're not opposed. By all means, we'll look
So
into
you're
it.
willing to do that too?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
From my calculations, I had you at 2.8 feet in the Baltimore Red School Lane side and back at your basin at 6 inches.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's your underground.
Over here.
You're at 4.9 feet at
Yeah.
the southeast corner.
So like I said, it goes in with the one.
It's not 4.9 inches, 4.9 inches on the side.
Caller, on the meeting, you can address the technical comments contained in Mr. Sturgeon's report, and then we can deal with the landscape issue and the parking.
Okay, so we're referencing Mr. Sturgeon's October 21st, 2016 letter.
and start on page 5.
Sure. Okay, a lot of these we can go through quickly because we really don't have any problems with them.
Yeah, John, why don't you just start it at 2.0 and just go
Yeah.
through each one and
So,
say whether we can comply.
2.01.
Issue.
We don't have any problems providing, Mr. Sturban for the units there.
John, let us catch up.
Sure, okay, no problem.
What page are you on?
We're on page 5 of 12.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so 2.01, site plan and grading sheets. We have no problem revising those to depict the sight lines. 2.02, site triangle profile. We have no problem working that out. 2.03, site plan, four-way stop for safety reasons. No problem. 2.04, the hammerhead turnaround area for the rear parking lot. It's not a problem, we'll provide that. 2.05, coordinating, there's some confusion with the parking space callouts, but we'll get that resolved and get that corrected. It's not an issue. 2.06 starts getting into the variance on number of parking spaces, so maybe we can just come back to that one and hit that one after, or do you want to hit it now?
6 and 7 are, 2.06 and 2.07 are related. Maybe I can just kick things off here. Mr. Cole-Brandon can respond as needed here, but it's our observation. We had requested the applicant submit a parking analysis. George and I had an observation that there seemed to be too much parking on this site. The one building is in operation now, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of usage of the parking field. And we thought perhaps there should be less parking stalls, so we asked for analyses to be done. The analyses came back and sort of confirmed what our thought was, that there's fairly low usage and there's a large surplus of parking stalls. So maybe just to cut to the chase here, I think that some of the stalls that are being added in the southerly portion of the site really aren't needed and should either be removed in their entirety. Most particularly, I think 25 stalls that are in the southwesterly corner of the property, adjacent to all the residents who were at the last hearing, and I think they're here tonight. And at the last hearing, they were concerned about the walking path and the landscaping. They wanted that area left open. And I suspect they're here tonight because there's landscaping again on the plan because there's a parking lot there. And perhaps that, due to the findings of the parking analyses, that would be an area that we would target to either just have banked or removed altogether, and perhaps the landscaping would be able to be removed in conjunction with that. So I just want to throw that out. I don't know if George has any commentary over what I just said.
Well, I think I agree. The times I was there, even before the parking study came in, it just seemed like the level of use at the site was really low, and that we had an extensive amount of parking. And I think the area back, as Paul has pointed out, adjacent to the residential area, particularly that one-sided L parking area, could either be, if the board agrees, could either be put in a reserve, i.e. you just reserve that if it's ever needed, it can be built, or it actually, the variance be approved that they can actually remove it. And also in our letter, we pointed out that at the previous approval, the neighbors didn't want any landscaping in that area because they wanted it open. And we have just indicated to the applicant that if that's still the feeling of the neighbors, they may remove the buffer from that portion of the plan. So that goes back to when we get to the audience participation, their opinion in that area. So I think there's a real possibility that that parking area could be eliminated or banked.
And then, of course, the question as to the neighbor's desire of whether we provide the landscape buffer or not at this stage. If they still want it open, I have no objections to leaving it open, if that's their choice. But yes, I think it's a very good idea, and like I say, I felt we had plenty of parking on that site. And though we never hoped this, the parking ratio is so high for medical office buildings, even if we remove some of the excess parking, there'll be plenty of parking on that site for another user if for some reason, we don't hope that, if some reason the use would have to change, there's plenty of parking on that site. So I think it's well worth the board considering that, the variances the applicant is about to provide us proof on.
And just two quick responses to that. First, more than happy to bank the parking, whatever the board prefers. And with the landscaping and the buffering, especially in that particular quadrant, whatever the neighbors want. We're work with the neighbors, the board. We have no particular ox in this fight. We'll do whatever's best.
Would you have any concerns with going in that direction?
No. Like Mr. Strickland had alluded to, we had done a parking study where we had individuals from our firm actually spend their days sitting in the parking lot counting cars. And what our conclusions were that just based on based on what we counted, that there's actually a surplus of 193 spaces after what we proposed to put in versus what's actually used. So even if we bank 25 in the back, we're still looking at 160 and change worth of surplus. So we're comfortable either way.
Doing that.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, you want
On to 2.8, 2.08, and service report.
Okay, 2.08 discusses off-street loading berths. The applicant is going to ask for a variance or a waiver on that. The deliveries that we made to the site will be consistent with what's being done now, so that the trucks will just park in the parking spaces as need be. 2.09, we discussed briefly, was the 8-foot fence, which will certainly reduce to be 4 foot at the maximum, and I'll double check on the design code for the barrier. So that's not a problem there. 2.10 asks for some additional dimensions for sidewalks, parking lots, and angles of parking stalls. That's not a problem. We'll provide those as well. That puts us into item 3, and grading, drainage, and utilities. 3.01 discusses that we are non-compliant because our grade is at 6% on our driveway. That's something that we're stuck with because of the grading at the site, just the steepness of the property as it relates to Red School Lane in that location. We really can't make it any less than 6%. So we are going to have to request a design waiver on that. 3.02.
one comment on that proposal. You say you're 4% within 100 feet of an intersecting street. You just measured it, it's 180 feet, I think, up where you put the driveway.
Yeah, it's more than 180 feet, closer to 300 feet. So.
Okay.
Does Red School Lane count as your intersecting street? Is that what you're saying?
Red School of Baltimore.
Red School, Baltimore. So from Red School, Baltimore to the driveway, approximately 300 feet.
So you're saying you don't need a waiver for that now?
Well, I was addressing Mr. Jarvin's comment, but if you do need one,
I think it was design waivers needed, and I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, I was just more stating for the record that I can't really do much with the 6%. Generally, that's dictated to me by the topography of the site.
Your other entrance, what's the grade on that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
It's similar.
Okay.
3.02, curb grades and top of grade elevations. No problem there. We'll get that squared away with Mr. Sturbin's office. 3.03 talks about the new retaining wall and how it's to be constructed with the embankment and the proposed stormwater system. We'll get that squared away with Mr. Sturban's office as well. That's not going to be a problem.
Mr. Colabrandi, I'm just
Yes.
looking at the report, all the items on page 7, they're all technical and continue to address those.
Let me just make sure.
Take your time.
No problem. Okay. Yes.
Same thing for 3.13 and 3.14.
Correct and correct. 3.15, I'm going to defer to the attorney.
Why don't you address 3.15, because our engineers asked that you address the issue with the board.
3.15 asks that the recommendation from Mr. Sturban's office is that the board should have a discussion with the applicant regarding improvements on 7th Street, including curbing and milling and resurfacing of the cartway. So it's not in as much a technical question about the site plans as much as it is something the board, he's recommending that the board discuss and consider and discuss with the applicant.
And if I can step in, I mean, certainly if it involves milling the roadway, throwing down a top coat asphalt, something like that, we don't have a problem doing that. We are concerned with, sort of when you get into building roads and how they feed into other roads and, sort of peeling an onion, and it leads to, you have stormwater drainage and things like that. And 7th Street presently isn't in the best condition based on just my layman's observations. We're more than happy to restrict access to 7th Street to prevent coordinated health staff from utilizing this. So it's really almost an emergency secondary access route. And again, if it comes to, you want us to resurface the roadway, not a problem. When you get into more involved improvements, we're going to have to talk about that.
The section of road we're talking about is 150 feet in length. It's between Baltimore Street gutter and where they're starting their road improvements on their site. We're not talking about a very long length of improvements there. The road is in rough shape. The road is being used more, and it's going to be used even more now with this new building coming in. So that was my rationale for bringing this up to the board. Am I looking for a complete reconstruction? No, I don't think we need to do that. I think if we can curb it between the site and Baltimore Street and do some milling and leveling and some resurfacing, I think that would do the trick. I'm not looking for a total box out and complete reconstruction. Mr. Colabrandi would have to put a plan together to detail exactly what we would do there. So I'm not looking for a complete rebuild.
I'm sorry if I heard you correctly, Paul. You talked about curbing there too,
Yes,
for drainage.
curved, yes.
And I don't remember what it's like. Is there enough pavement there to facilitate milling, or is it in just gone?
I'm not sure the depth that he asked.
You can only
Something we would look at.
mill under certain circumstances.
It's in pretty bad shape. I mean, I have no engineering perspective. I just know what, my visual observations. It's not the best.
Well, I can tell you it's probably less than an inch until all college started.
Yeah, so when there's going to be nothing to mill, right? So it's just going to be gone. My impression is it would benefit from curbs for drainage, and it's, if you look at the impact on the area, it's no hardship to, put some paving down for 150 feet.
Any objection?
Can we call a 3-minute timeout? To huddle up?
2 minutes.
30 seconds.
Comment before you have the discussion? The blacktop you're going to save in the back parking lot you can use on 7th Street.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much the blacktop we're concerned about. I think it's more the subsurface.
Well, you got subsurface going on in your parking lot too.
Yeah, but the milling sounds impractical, so it's going to have to be something.
Well, and you say that's a cobblestone road, right, over there? The old road?
Or I can see it.
Well, if that's all complain about moderation, I'll later on. We're saving some money on parking. The overall improvement to the site. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I would say we can do 190.
Boulevard or something.
I never missed our chance.
Now, there's the block government
Regionally, so that if this, but the garage fell apart, like they also say.
I thought they said in the beginning that they were never gonna, they're gonna close this back from the road back to our property. Huh?
That was in the original plan, this is new.
I know, but I don't want.
When it was That's 2,000. So it sounds like you're taking some of this.
See the curving, the paving improves the drainage.
So the others are, what the residents want.
Right.
So why can't they take?
Like, why don't they just go this way?
Because we used to.
Let me ask you a question. I stand next to you.
Yeah.
Let's get 15 people to do the same thing.
You gotta bring some.
We're glad it wasn't, because we didn't
I
want
got,
that.
for that original meeting though, they said they
I
weren't coming.
like to live up to it.
They said they weren't coming back. I know. They live right here and they live there.
Why do they even need all of it? I mean, because then they actually did
I don't want people to say.
You could sell that kind
Using square footage of the building, X number of parking spaces. But that's why they're like, you're not using what you've got.
Exactly.
So, right, so they're gonna have the variance, so they're not gonna have to do that.
All this here,
Oh,
okay.
that's what they're gonna have.
But
to do.
it's like you said, i.e., it's there for the future.
Whatever you look at,
Right, so, well, do landscape.
On the top left.
Really, that whole, this whole section is.
Yeah.
This thing here, this whole thing?
There would just be a blind.
Okay.
spot.
Not done.
We want that.
No, we don't want that.
Well, no, that's still under discussion.
No, yeah.
Right, so wait, so does it get, it's gonna come back in again? Fine, so I'm looking at environmental section, and of course, I want more trees. I'm
Where's
putting
the
trees in landscape.
Right, they're not trying to do, take away these, because they're nice, big, healthy trees.
So I have questions about that.
Actually, there's a lot of dead in these trees.
They're gonna put a stockpile right here.
Of what?
Because it's true, they have this big thing right here.
Of dirt?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, those trees are not all that healthy. They need to clean them all out. There's a lot, I could take
I
my
think they're
grandkids, we
thinking-
go to the jungle up there.
Yeah, but the thing about
There's a lot of
it
dead up
is,
there.
these trees block the light for me,
Yeah.
because this is very bright.
Oh, I'm not saying to take them down, I'm just saying they need to be cleaned up, because there's a lot of dead up there. That's all I'm saying.
You guys don't.
I don't want trees.
You don't want the big bushy,
No.
and you guys don't.
They got up on my.
But I hate-
This guy's.
What should be really considered here for the main is not now, but it should be available. Whole situation, you can just check it out.
Okay.
Right now, just put it IE.
How about if they move, instead of doing it here, they don't do that, they just move some of those trees?
That would be the wise way to go.
Okay,
Yeah, we already,
just not, as you just not enough
This
buffer
has
area.
always been all grass area for as long as we've ever lived here. This is the road coming up, the back parking lot. There's just nothing but grass back.
well, no.
Well, it's back
This
here.
should be going. We don't want to. Yeah, like just plenty of these. Down.
193, you said, or 9?
Extra parking lots, so why would you come next year?
Okay.
For fun of it? Change it, those are out there, you know, and
My question, I know they
Okay, so
abandoned
those
the
can be all
alley.
conditions.
Is that now for fire owner? What's the special behind it?
yeah,
I mean,
So it's a paper street. If they didn't ever need it.
no, it wasn't. It was an accident. It wasn't, it was an accident.
1, 2, 3.
I think they're just trying to limit
This is like-
But
I have to-
Okay, we're gonna reconvene the meeting.
I just don't remember every now and then.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity for us to huddle up and discuss 7th Street, and I'm gonna defer to Mr. Colgrane.
So after discussing what the applicant's willing to do, the applicant's willing to mill the existing top coat off and replace the top coat of the road. He's willing to put the curbing in. We're gonna maintain the same, configuration, topography that's there right now, no changes. And then what we don't want to get into is we don't want to get into having to box out, doing a full rebuild and dealing with any base. So it's just going to be a top mill, new top, curbing, and it's all the same elevations now. So we can just maintain the same, surface runoff almost that.
I'm confident that you can work with Mr. Sturbins and come up with a plan that's mutually acceptable.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate your cooperation.
One question, on curbing, that includes curb cuts for their driveway access?
Yes.
Okay.
We could leave it full height curb. And,
I
don't think it'd be too popular then, but.
Use my favorite sign, bump.
I just really have one comment. Well, I have no idea what the grading is out there now. If you get with curbing in the street, you gotta do something.
there's gonna have to be some leveling.
Yeah.
So, and I think Mr. Colgrane understands. that.
Within
He's trying to
reason,
protect
yes.
His client and getting into a big road reconstruction project. But I understand what they're committing to, and I think we can work out, a compromise or a balance here.
Sure.
Could that work if in theory, there's only an inch left of asphalt and they want to mill and repave? There's not enough asphalt there really to support a road. So if there's really only 1 inch out there, I know, I'm not quoting you on it, but it might not be.
Let's say we find there's an inch there, you might mill 2, and then maybe they come in and they put 3 or 3.5 inches of top in there, right? To get 3.5 inches in there.
Let the professionals work.
But I think we gotta go in and take a look at it. We'll probably have to walk the job together.
Yeah.
As part of the conditions of approval, and figure out exactly what we're gonna do. I think the applicant doesn't want to see a foot cut out of there and have to put 6 inches of dense graded aggregate and 4 inches of base and 2 inches of top. That's what they're trying.
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Right, and I understand that, but if you mill an inch and there's nothing left of it, you really can't salvage it. So what happens then? Can we address what happens if what's out there isn't adequate to support, the milling and overlay? I mean, maybe it's a discussion that you have to have once you know what's there.
Well, perhaps there would be a slight elevation change for the finished grade as opposed to existing grade. And then if the on-site analysis determines that you wouldn't cause drainage or ponding on the edges at the residence, then it might still be okay just to raise everything up that inch. Down the bottom.
I think what would happen as part of this process is we would core the road and see what the average depth of the existing pavement is. And that's going to tell us what we need to look at in the way of, an improvement plan.
But that's been an existing right of way or existing road for 25 to 30 years. And it really hasn't disintegrated to a point where it's impassable. I mean, when Baker Chemical was in there, Mellencrop Baker, Avantor, whoever you want to call them, that road hadn't deteriorated with all the traffic that's been on that over the years. There's enough grade on it to maybe raise the elevation of the pavement several inches, and you'll have enough asphalt there. You don't have to disturb the base and come in for a full compaction. It's just
We may find out.
We just have to make sure that the existing grades at Baltimore and the proposed grades for the driveway,
Yeah, we
we
can
can still
always,
get the proper,
always saw cut it.
yeah.
If we see that there's 3 inches of asphalt there through the cores, we may not mill it. We may just do leveling and resurface it with some spot base repairs.
Well, thank you very much for your consideration.
So I'll move on to the rest of the meeting.
Comments?
The next area deals with landscaping and lighting. Mr. Peck, you indicated in your introductory comments that you're going to work with the board with respect to landscaping, and more landscaping was requested. Would you be going to work with us on that?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, based on the board's preferences, based on residents' comments, and whatever works best for everybody.
We still have to hear from the public on that, and whether they want landscaping in that one corner where the parking is going to be banked. But I said in your comments that you would work with our engineer and our planner to come up with a mutually satisfactory landscaping plan.
Absolutely.
Subject, of course, to what the neighbors input.
Of course, their input is very much important to us.
So 4.01 to 4.09, we'll work with us on landscaping.
Work with you
A couple of
and
miscellaneous
the community.
comments in there, you'll
Yeah.
correct the lighting plan.
Yes, I'll hear what the residents have to say and synthesize all that into something that's acceptable to everybody.
Okay. So we'll jump to item 5.0. Everybody's, we're good. Okay, so 5.01 requires some additional discussion brought by me. The comment was to go back to the 2014 traffic count data and compare that to the 2016 traffic count data to determine whether there was any substantial difference in volumes along Red School Lane. So our traffic department within Pinoni, we went back and we looked at it. And in fact, there is some changes. The 2014 data had more vehicles at the AM peak hour than the 2016 data did. So what we did is we used the 2014 data, we increased the volume by 1% per year, and we reran our analysis. And the conclusion for our analysis was that the level of service at each of the intersections didn't change. So that the conclusions that were in the first traffic report are still valid conclusions, despite the uptick in traffic from the previous data.
So no substantial changes.
None at all.
And I guess as a condition of approval, will you submit the updated traffic report?
We could certainly do that.
Thank you.
Geotechnical issues.
Geotechnical, 6.01, that's not a problem. We did the geotechnical report before we even had the site plan done, so we were just guesstimating on the finished floor elevation, so we'll get that adjusted. It's not a problem. And 6.02, we discussed it with the applicant. We will provide, we will go out and provide some additional test pits for the purposes of looking for the seasonal high water and basin bedding material. As long as we're clear, and as long as Mr. Sturbins understands that we're not going to go out and do percolation tests, as this is a closed system.
Test pits only.
Test pits only.
All the miscellaneous comments seem to be technical in nature.
And we are comfortable in addressing all of those comments.
George, is there anything in your report that has not yet been addressed?
There's only 2 items and they're actually quite minor. It's just a matter, I think, of clarity. In the applicant's plan, the MRI facility, which was a proposed addition on phase 1, has been removed in this submission. I've heard and understood that the facility itself may have been integrated into the building. But that said, I just think it should be clear that the applicant is withdrawing the approval for that addition. That essentially you're not planning to do an addition there. And if you do in the future, you'll come back and ask the board to get it reapproved, because it's been taken out of your parking analysis. I just want to see how we're handling that.
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Okay, that's good. And the only other thing that should be made clear, and it was at the beginning of the meeting, that this does not involve the approval of any signage. That's going to be for a later day.
Correct.
And my comments only on the landscaping. We have to hear from the public as to what they want to do in that corner. So that's pretty much my review at this stage.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add, Mr. Chairman?
No, I'm good. We did kind of skip around in we were doing a page by page review. At one point, then we started asking lots of questions. We started flipping all around. I don't know if you got all the way to the end.
Well, the last couple of sheets are our detail sheets. So it provides the various construction details that we're going to employ. This is a lot of what Mr. Sturgeon commented on in his technical section about certain preferences and things the town wants to see in terms of the construction details, which
Right.
we're fine with providing. Additionally, as you get further back into the set, we have the stormwater system details, the underground system, landscaping details for trees, and then we get into our soil erosion and sediment control plans, which we will be submitting to the Solicit County District sediment control guys to get our permit.
So actually, I did so remember how I had mentioned the space between the two buildings? So now you have a giant stockpile where those trees are.
Yeah, I saw that, yes. Well, what we'll do is we'll adjust the stockpile further away.
Right,
So
because
that
in
we
your,
don't kill the trees.
right, because in your details, you show putting up fence around the drip line of
Tree
the
protection.
tree protection, and it seems like they would kind of conflict.
Good catch. We'll show the trees on this plan and move that over to accommodate that.
Okay. And then along the southern side, you go straight down the property line with your silt fence
Mhm.
and your protection,
Mm-hmm.
but yet that whole row of trees and shrubs and grading are unaffected. It seems like you wouldn't why not just go to the other side, to the north side of all those existing trees and shrubs?
We could, doesn't matter, one way or the other. I mean,
Because again, it
there's
seemed like that line was going right
there's
through
no
all those
construction,
existing.
and that's just a silt fence, so that's just gonna be a silt fence with a couple stakes in the ground and that.
Well, it gets buried 6 inches,
Yeah,
you do it 6.
Yeah, we
inch
do
track.
it according to the detail.
Right.
Um,
It just seemed like it was going right through the
Well, we
existing
could-
trees and shrubs.
we could jog it in if that's what the board wants us to do.
I mean, obviously you need room for the wall.
Right.
Okay,
Go with that best practice on that.
right.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
okay, does that conclude your
That
presentation?
concludes-
That would
Or
conclude our testimony.
you have no other experts to testify?
No other experts.
Okay. In that case, I'll ask, does the board have any
I
questions?
do have a question. Sure. Yeah, I just can't, because it was a part of phase one. The 21,500 square foot facility, that's consistent with what you were thinking you were gonna get in there back in the phase one?
I would defer to the applicant, I was not involved in phase
I would
one,
say
so-
phase one, was the adaptive reuse of the existing building. There was no new construction. There was, as Mr. Ritter indicated, there was, a contemplated little MRI bump out section that we've abandoned. This is the only new construction, is phase two. That's the 21,507 square feet.
During
The
phase
original-
one, you knew that this was coming.
The original application showed that building in the concept plan that you were gonna construct a new building.
It was always contemplated, yes.
And that was the original part of the, completeness for, application of the original application you had, but for reasons known to you, that building was eliminated, so.
I recall the building being a lot bigger, actually.
Provide testimony.
I actually recall the building in concept, when we first saw the redevelopment of the site being a lot larger. I actually recall a building of 48,000 square feet. That's my recollection. But that was a concept, that was a concept, so.
Absolutely true. When we went through design phase.
Wait, you should probably,
Just swear you in.
Sorry.
Raise your right hand. You swear to affirm the testimony you give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name, spell your last name, please.
Michael Campion, last name is spelled Campian.
Michael, you just advise the board as to what position you hold,
I'm the Chief Facilities Officer for Makeda Properties.
and if you've been involved in the development of this site plan?
I have.
Okay. Why don't you then?
Sure. Everyone's referring to the original set of drawings that were from before. It was always a concept plan. It was always something that they had wanted to develop. There was never any clear indicators of exactly what the specifics were going to be inside the buildings. We go through many types of meetings where we try to figure out what services to offer the community and what exactly we're going to put in there. And we don't really know exactly what's going to happen until we start to do our business plan and our pro forma. So yes, and the proposal was probably a lot larger. I don't know the exact number, but once we fine tune the business plan of what services we could offer and what services this community would need and what we want to work with, this is what came out of it. So this is a matter of many, many months of going through business plans and trying to attract the right type of business to the area for the surgical center.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will just add one other thing. We had asked the applicant at that time not to carry his future proposal on the approved plans because it wasn't clear what his intentions were. So that's why they don't appear. We actually asked them not to show any future plans because they weren't fixed.
I understand that, and certain things were anticipated during phase one with this might come, and some of the work that was done previously during phase one was anticipating the structure. I was just making sure it didn't get a lot bigger, because then some of our assumptions that we're already taking into account on the phase one wouldn't be applicable anymore. But that you're saying it was actually maybe twice as big as it would, so it got smaller. I'm not as concerned now that it's smaller than what was possibly going to happen at phase one. Another comment that had happened, we were looking for updated elevations of the facility to verify heights and whatnot. I have not seen that. It was one of the comments.
It was indicated in here that.
We did provide elevations about 2 weeks ago.
You supplied it at the last meeting, I believe.
Yeah, you indicated that it was.
in one of the notes or something that says that elevations have subsequently been provided.
You were under the ordinances of 40 feet, I believe it is, and the 35 something.
Yes.
So
You didn't give elevation.
And I don't think that any of our subsequent plan changes would affect the elevations or the architectural renderings.
I think we were looking for just verification that it wasn't meeting the height. And the elevations by themselves not being labeled or detailed or dimensioned, you couldn't tell. And maybe our professionals have it, but I do not.
Yeah, and I apologize. I don't know that I may have a test, but I don't want to waste your time digging through my order. My understanding is we're within the building box.
Okay, so not to go in it step by step, if there were any comments that were previously not addressed, I'd like to just put a blanket statement out there that conditional approval was based on you addressing all the comments, whether or not you actually remember to talk about it tonight. Good?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is there a question about the building height?
It was a question brought up by somebody else, not me.
The maximum building height is 26 feet, and that has to do with the architectural feature in the front of the building. The lion's share of the building is on the order of 17 to 19 feet. And this is based on the architectural renderings that were provided at the last meeting.
I had one question for you, Mr. Pellegrini. You had indicated earlier that you or indeed seeking either a variance or a waiver for requirement to provide washroom building code. Am I correct in assuming that the reason you're seeking a waiver or variance is you don't need it for the type of facility and the services they provide there, that deliveries really would be from smaller box trucks and you don't need a building berth?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
I'll just clarify that also by saying the initial setup for the facility, when they're initially bringing in all the furniture, might require some larger trucks, but that's a short time, one-time hit.
Okay.
When we were talking about the retaining wall, there was a little wall between one parking area and the other parking area. I think it was right there. Is there something to keep cars from actually going over the wall, or is it high enough to be a curb?
Well, there is an existing curb.
Okay.
But to answer your question, there's no guardrail proposed.
Is it high enough to keep people from?
Well, this is the high end, so this is the low end. So the wall itself is pretty close to the existing grade on the high side. So to answer your question, no.
So do we want to see a little height increase to make it like a curb, so a car can't go over?
We could amend it or do something.
At least to get a curb out there.
The applicants agreed to do something to prevent the overflow. That was part of our review letter.
Okay.
So we can take a look at doing a railing, or we can take a look at what you suggested, Eric, which is maybe pump up the elevation of the wall to, provide, a barrier there.
Yeah, well, I don't think raising the wall is really the solution here, because if we go with the block wall, it has nothing to tie back into. Those blocks aren't going to stop anything. But some kind of rail would probably be more appropriate in this type of situation.
Could it be the same decorative fence that you're using along the front?
No, the decorative fence along the front is really designed for the 200-pound point load, 50 pound per square foot, per linear foot load for a railing. Keep persons from tumbling off. That would be more used for a car, so it needs to be more robust.
Okay. All right, at this point, I think we'll open it up to the public for comment and questions. Of this expert, does anybody have anything they'd like to say? Please come forward, state your name and where you live.
Excuse me?
State your name and where you live.
Carl Stephen Mitnick. I live on 2156 6th Street, up in the corner that we're talking about. I do have a couple questions. One is with the resurfacing of, in front of Brian's here on 7th Street. I think there's a lot of money being saved here with the landscaping if you don't do the parking. And asking them to only do a milling on the top, I don't think makes really good sense, because the top follows the base. So it'd be better to have them prepare the base and the township pick up the tab on doing the top. But it's just my perspective. I don't see, when you start doing these overlays, they're going to fall apart. So that's just my input on that. And there's a lot of money being saved here. From the first application, we all in the neighborhood said don't put up the buffer. So there's money's being found and saved. So I don't know why there'd be an argument to doing that with the, with the street. But that's not the main premise here. I'm just throwing that out there for consideration. I just, on the part with the parking up there, without having an elevation view looking at the building this way, it's hard to say whether we want landscaping or we don't want landscaping. But I think landscaping should always remain in play because of what may change there. If they add parking or they do something else with the property, maybe we want landscaping, maybe we don't want it now. So right now, I can't tell whether or not we'd want to get a buffer up in that corner up there right now or not. So I'm saying maybe put it on the back burner, that if we want to come back to it, that we can.
Yep, we're eliminating the parking there anyway, so whatever.
But if something changed down the road, where all of a sudden we need the parking,
They had to come back and.
then we could
If
address
they
it
wanted
then.
to rebuild it, then we would revisit it at that point.
Okay, that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Brian, you have anything that you would want to come up with?
Brian Weeks, 208 South 7th Street. My concern is, again, I could agree with Steve, but I'd actually like to see the parking lot go away. And it's not because of the neighbors we have today, it's the neighbors I have tomorrow. All right, I've witnessed, 3 companies go through there now. Okay, nobody knows where that future goes. If they feel they need a parking lot down the road, let them come in front of them and present that. You know what I mean? But today, let's, if they don't need it, they don't need it. All right, let's not make the next company just build it because they want to. All right, that is my opinion on that. I do agree with Steve with the trees. Again, my house has been broken into 3 times. I don't want any, I cut my trees down. I don't want buffers around my house. Okay? I ask for respect in that area. Down the road, if you put something in there that's next to my property line, and you're gonna keep me up all night, cars coming and going, I'd like to have that ability to rechange that a little bit. All right? But, again, everything stopped once I cut the trees down, so I know it's about to, too much privacy around the tree line. All right, it was too easy for them. I hope the parking lot does go into limbo and just disappears, but I need to know a little bit more about what's underneath there. I have, 7-8 foot basement. All right, and I need to know whether if that lets go or what it is, how it works. You know what I mean? I like to have a little bit of knowing if you're going to hold water there, what it's going to do. You know what I mean? Is it going to affect my property 5 years down the road? Is it not? What am I going for here? You know what I mean? So if you do away with it, we don't have to discuss it. If you plan to keep it, then I'd like to have a set of plans. Be totally honest with you, because I need to know where to go with it. So that's my concern. All right, and if it affects my basement in any way, right now I don't have any water in my basement. If I get water in my basement, I'm going to come knock on some doors.
Is this your property here? No. Or are you here?
I'm right here. I'm right here.
You're this one?
This one right here, yeah.
Okay, weeks.
Weeks, yeah.
There you go. All right. Just wanted to clarify that. Yeah.
All right. So that's my concerns at this point. The other thing is, how come and just a question I was thinking about, why do we put the lights on the outside of parking lots and not on the inside of parking lots? All right, you're worried about going over on the people's property. You're putting them closer to my property line, closer to the neighbor's property lines. All right, you have an inside curving. Why are they facing that way and not coming down so they don't come over that driveway at all? Why do you have to fight them? You know what I mean? Is there an ordinance or something that has to go that way?
My
Fixtures
experience.
and lighting design on the outside, and there's fixtures on the inside. It really depends on the parking lot you're trying to illuminate.
Okay.
Of course, any designer's trying to do it as efficiently as possible.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And as cheap and as nice as they can, which is cool, so.
But the parking lot goes, there won't be any lights by your house.
I'm hoping it disappears, John. So, all right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Joe Lasardi, corner of Baltimore and South 7th. So I was here 2 years ago when we talked about the lighting and the signage on it. And I have to say, these guys did an excellent job of keeping the backflow from our property, so very good there. So my newest concern is if this parking here is eliminated, now you have new parking here, and I'm worried about the lighting. You know, visually, your backlighting, which only has 8 posts versus your front, I think there's like 12. You're much brighter in the front than you are in the back. And if you're using LED lighting as you did in the past, you can throttle it down. I understand that. My concern is how we're going to light this area, because I'm right here, right next to Brian. So this will shoot straight down. The way you have it lit right now with your landscaping in place, we're still good. You know, hard to see. I'm concerned about this area. I know you're using directional blinders and all, but being that we're considerably closer now and your landscaping hasn't matured enough to actually block it. So I do have some concerns about that. And then my other concern is with the new building, we're going to have signage. And
we're going to come back with a sign package. I mean, where the signage hasn't been developed yet.
Right.
And, if it's consistent with the municipal ordinances and regulations, then we'll just get the sign permits and do that. But if there's any variance or deviation from what's permitted from the township regulations, we're going to have to go to the zoning board and get a variance.
Right, because we had this concern 2 years ago. We made adjustments to it. I believe it's supposed to be on top of the building, now it's on the building. So it basically eliminated the concerns we had about that.
Right.
So I wonder if we could possibly do that now, so we wouldn't have that in the future.
I think they're still at the drawing board.
Okay.
So we want to see if we get the building approved first. If that happens, then we'll start drawing up.
Thank you. I think just to address Mr. Lusardi's comment here, I think there's quite a few lights that, if this parking lot's removed, quite a few lights are going to be removed. And then we should be able to maybe work with Mr. Colagrande how to illuminate the smaller parking lot behind the building to try to get that light cast inward toward the building as opposed to outward. So I think we can address this gentleman's comments.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Any further comments?
I have one more, but it's not based on this, it's based on what's going on now, if I may. And I don't know how you want to handle this, gentlemen. My wife and I have a little concern. You guys have on your property have a no smoking policy. My property has become your dump ground. All right, I can show you the candy jars full of cigarettes if you'd like to see it. Okay? I'm not happy. I don't like it. I don't smoke. I understand people do. I'm okay with that. But don't burn my house down. And I don't belong going around picking up cigarette butts, all right, every day. So either give them a spot to throw their cigarettes as they come up in their car or something. I don't know how to handle that, but I think the other neighbors are having the same problem. You know what I mean? Every call, they're just throwing right out in our yard.
Is it patrons of the site or employees? Or,
I don't know, but I can watch. All right. It's not a planning concern, but it's a concern of ours. All
I
right.
think they're employees because they come and they park in front of our house between 7 and 8. And then they go up and park.
It's easier to smack an employee than.
Yeah, I can collaborate that. We've seen that they come up, park, finish what they're doing, and then move on.
So having their smoke on the way to the office and before they.
Yeah, we understand it. It's just don't make my yard with them. Nor burn my house down in the next
I may
project.
address that concern.
Just raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you give the truth, the whole truth.
I do.
State your name, spell your last name, please.
Chris Dos Santos, that's DOSSANTOS.
Thank you.
And Chris, what is your position with Coordinated Health or?
I am the Associate General Counsel for Coordinated Health, and this is the first I've heard of that concern. I would like to say if it is employees, I would personally speak to our clinic manager tomorrow about that concern and see that it ends. And I would invite you to please, and I'll give you a card afterwards this evening, if you do see employees continuing to do that after tonight or after the next week or so, once we get the word out, kindly let me know, and I'll make sure it doesn't happen. Because we have it on smoking for a reason.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean just go down the block to the neighbors and smoke. So it's meant to engender a healthier environment, right? You know, we're a healthcare organization. We want our patients to feel like we embrace healthcare ideals. By parking on near a neighbor's property and smoking, that doesn't engender that.
Well, I mean, we wait till everybody comes up through there, all right, and we're happy with it. You know what I mean? It's just,
Sure. Yeah, and like I said, first I'm hearing it, so I'll make sure I get the word out, even through our HR department to the employees there.
yeah, no, we're not mad at them.
Understood.
No more litter.
Understood.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I better have a quarter.
Last call on the further comments. Hearing none, we'll close the public portion of the session.
I do have two questions that were engendered by this discussion, if I could. John, could you point out exactly what's being eliminated, or what we're discussing eliminating in the parking? Is it just the upper part, or the one on either side of those seven?
As of now, we're.
All right, just that. Now, how does that impact your detention basin up in that area?
I was gonna say, could you go to the landscaping page and the detention page?
obviously have less impervious, so what are we doing to that?
It's less, it'll make it a little smaller, but not significantly. I mean, we're really, the big drain areas up in here. So yeah, it'll reduce it by maybe 25%, but we'll have to rerun the.
And then I really didn't look at the details, but this underground storage areas, I usually see, and they're just big pipes, and nothing is really percolating into the ground, correct?
Correct, but we have.
Could you review the operation of that a little bit? You went over there.
Easier if I get to the details. So, combination of both, actually. So, running horizontally on the page, we show the piping.
And what's the diameter of those?
Right now, the diameter 48-inch diameter, HDPE polyethylene piping, solid.
All right, it's not the solid wall.
It's all solid wall. It's going to be not packed in stone. It's going to be packed in densely graded aggregate, so that it doesn't collect water. Okay, and then it's a sealed system. All right, so then I'm moving my sheets here, but essentially the sealed system, all the pipes connect to a manifold. They go into the filter so we can get the suspended solids out to meet the EP requirements, and then from the filter it goes out into the storm sewer system.
Then that'll be piped all the way to Walmart.
Yes, yeah.
Brian, does that answer your?
I'm happy with that. Do you mind if when you're doing it, I walk over and take a look at it? I will be there, help yourself. I just want to see what I'm looking at. I think if it's close, I like expectancy, and how long. It's HDPE, it's plastic, it'll be there for all the long time.
Yeah, any neighbors left, respect the construction that's happening.
I would just keep safety in mind. Yeah. I know that.
You might have to sign a waiver.
Right. No, I was strong. Yeah, I was strong a day later.
Okay. Just what, Joe?
It does, yes. Can you show on the proposed landscaping plan what we're also looking to table along with that parking lot?
Maybe not.
You're losing
everything.
Yeah,
it's too late tonight.
I think so.
So what we're gonna eliminate for now is we're going to eliminate these trees around the parking lot.
Well, is that actually what the board and what the residents want? I mean, because we were just discussing that we want to have clarity, with the plans. Do we want to eliminate the landscape buffer here? Do we want to keep it, or do we want to have some sort of modification to what's proposed now?
All right, well, so I also sit on the environmental commission.
Okay.
So obviously from the environmental commission, we want more trees.
The more trees.
But now I'm aware of the residents' concerns. They don't want them right up against the property line forming a solid barrier. They don't want the stream immediately.
We'll be able to look towards.
Unless the use and the development of a new building changes their mind and they want an alternative put in place, in which case somehow we set something up that they could inform us and we would invite you back.
Well, if there was any additional development plan on the site, we'd have to get site plan approval or amended site plan approval anyway, which would trigger another review.
Well, no, I think they kind of wanted the option of once you've built what's proposed.
Let's see what's there, and then we'll decide what kind of.
Yeah, so it sounded like they kind of wanted that option of.
I'll leave that to Mr. Spicero for having to grant that.
Wait a minute.
The time is now.
Well, right. The time is now, but I'm wondering if through the developers agreement call, we could put some time frame in there to so many months after completion, make a decision or something like that.
And we're certainly, again, amenable to working with the community to find something that reconciles everybody's needs and wishes. You know, we're not looking to be bad guys here.
Possibly just as an initial, bringing a couple of those perimeter trees up to, you see how you have a line of 5 or 6 where it was going to be an island?
Mm-hmm.
Right, if you just kind of put 5 or 6 behind them.
Hold them in the air.
Like where the parking was going to be, that's
Right,
being
where the parking
replaced.
is going to be,
that's
do
been moved.
right, do like a staggered, and then you're, what is that, 50 feet, 60 feet off the property line?
Yeah, about almost about 75 feet.
So, like, where they're proposing those 5 space trees.
We can't see it from that.
Right.
So,
No, please.
So, you know, you had indicated that you wanted all those gone, but they are proposing a few trees here. And what if they just did like an alternating stacking?
Like a W pattern.
Yeah, along there. And so it wasn't thick, it wasn't a big wall, but it would help with whatever lighting they did have.
You're eliminating.
One of the benefits of where we live.
This is what we eliminate.
We're eliminating that.
It's always nice to look up where
Proposing this,
You have a field by field.
Right.
Start putting trees in that are
So
growing there.
so you don't even want the alternating. Okay.
If those big trees, they're gonna get 30, 40, whatever it is, I don't know what they are. They're gonna get big and tall.
So you want it basically left the way it is now? No problem.
That's why we're.
I have to say, from the environmental commission, we're very sad to.
I love trees, but, you know, and it's a beautiful view.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, our ordinance is set up to provide a landscape buffer. If residents that are all there don't want. Reduce service, like. Well, it's words like that.
We're down to the point now where we're eliminating the parking lot. We're probably gonna have to offer a variance to eliminate the screen portion off. That's probably also, yeah,
Yeah, so they're gonna.
exactly, so it's gonna be doing
Yeah.
it. So,
Mark, I'd like to know that I don't want any.
No trees.
Okay,
Gotcha.
so we'd be willing
We're
to
against
grant,
trees.
Love trees. just
All right. We just don't love them in this corner. So, okay, so is that then the amended site plan that we'll be seeking approval for then would have the elimination of these trees in
South corner.
which is the southwest?
anything that's proposed there, we're gonna leave it basically.
Okay, kind of the southerly corner here that's adjacent to 7th Street. We're gonna remove those trees as per the wishes of the community.
And the reason would be to maintain the views, the vistas for.
The view shed of Merrill Creek.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And we'll make that,
And
We'll
how
break
many
the balance
parking
for that.
spaces will we be eliminating? Because I know we are technically, we do have to seek a parking variance because your parking regulations do require that we have 357 parking spaces. And we did come in looking for 335, but if we are going to remove this parking area, how many are we?
There's a 25.
25 there.
25.
So we're actually then looking for 330 parking spaces. So that would be one of the variances that we're going to see.
Right.
So, again, not going to belabor the point, we're seeking preliminary final site plan approval. We're seeking a bulk variance to permit 330 parking spaces where 357 would be required by the municipal ordinances. We're also looking for permission to have the walls in excess of 2 feet in the front setback area, as well as the design waiver for
Driveway grading.
Driveway grading.
Oh, right, for the
Loading dock.
for the driveway grading and also to eliminate the need for a loading dock.
Right. And then we also need to, if we're gonna eliminate the buffer along this property line, that's a variance also.
Oh, okay.
Is that a design
So-
waiver?
No, it's a variance. It's actually in the, use regulations for the PO district. It's a
And then again, right, in the
243.
southerly corner, adjacent to 7th Street, we look for a variance from the landscape requirements.
Would we instead ask that you put in shrubbery in lieu of trees? Shrubbery that does not get too tall, shrubbery that is, only grows to be 4 or 5 feet tall.
you can't go 4 or 5 poles too big.
Well, I would recommend that you take that shrubbery and run right alongside your 5-foot wall over there. Eliminating it, just move it. You want to do something there anyway, correct? So put something that don't get a lot of heavy root that's gonna rip your wall apart. Put in there. Give the neighbor next to you something nice to look at.
Well, can we do that then, with our professionals, working with the board's professionals, something that would be satisfactory to?
Absolutely.
I think that's something you already stipulated to with respect to the landscape.
Yes.
It's part of the package.
Right, and the tree count, one of the reviews had indicated that the tree count for replacement of the trees that you're taking down, you would fall short, or at least the original letter, and I didn't see it.
No,
We punched it up.
Punched it up. But of course, now you're taking all that other stuff, so now your replacement is gonna come down.
Correct. We have to,
Right.
if you want an exact number on the variance, we're gonna have to go back and recount trees, but that's, yes.
But we'll work with Mr. Ritter and Mr. Servantso to find, with whatever we're losing, if we can do some infill elsewhere, I'm sure we're happy to do that.
Okay, any further comments from the board?
So another thing here on the comments, page 2 of 12. There was mentioned that September 26 utilities letters were sent out, but only one was received. So I'd like to receive all the utility responses also, of course. Make sure we follow
That's a
up on that.
condition of approval.
Yes.
Anything further?
On the,
Paul, you have anything?
All my issues were addressed through the testimony today, so I want to thank the applicant.
Thank you. There was one.
The testimony with respect to the variance.
Variances. Okay, so we have the 5 variances we have to include here. You have the, we're looking for the variance on the
Preliminary and final site plan approval,
approval.
subject to all the conditions and stipulations set forth on the record throughout the year.
Okay, then. Entertain a motion for the variances first. Then.
I think you can do it all together.
Okay.
I have one additional comment real quick on one of the comments regarding, I think it was 7th Street, the repaving. If we go out there and do pavement cores, can we put something in there right now saying that whatever's left of the existing, plus whatever we put on top of it is going to have a minimum of 5-inch total thickness, just to make sure we get a real road out there?
I don't think that's what the applicant.
That's not what we're looking
That's
to.
not what we're asking for. We're gonna.
That was a public comment that you wanted to see a little bit more of it.
Without knowing what's there, I think it's unfair to ask the applicant to do that. They've agreed basically to resurface it, to put curbing in, to clean it up, but they're not giving us a new roadway in that area.
Not asking for a new roadway, just making sure that we have enough total thickness. So I asked Paul, what is the minimum thickness of the total asphalt that we would want to see to be comfortable out there? We might have
That's a
it.
good question. There, 2 inches might be enough because there may be 12 inches of stone underneath the road right now. So I think we have to go and do a few cores and examine the roadway a little bit more, and then we'll come up with a logical plan for that roadway to have it improved between Baltimore Street and the site.
Whatever's built will meet DOT standards.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. It's not a public road.
It's a public road, but we're only overlay.
Don't all public roads meet DOT standards?
Yeah, from new construction standards, yes, but we're not reconstructing the road. We're only overlaying.
The materials that
I
will be
don't
put
think
down
that's
will
true
meet
either. I
DOT
mean, look, it's towns that have, oil and chip and so on. You have a lot of things in the right of way. They don't all meet DOT standards.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, there was a presumption on my part.
Oh,
We'll have
I didn't mean that.
put in.
So then.
So that, as you're working with them, I would just ask that be comfortable with the final product. Once the pavement is milled and new pavement is put on there, just be comfortable with it.
DOT approved materials we use do not necessarily meet DOT standards.
Right, I just don't want to see a 2-inch total roadway there and it lasts 2 years. So, just be diligent moving forward on the roadway thickness. Yeah.
All right, I want to entertain a motion for preliminary and final site plan approval with the variances, waivers that we have indicated.
I make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
I will second that motion.
Beth, roll call vote, please.
Okay. Members Fox,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Marcheski.
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Wolf,
Yes.
Mayor McKay,
Yeah.
and Benson.
Yes.
Thank you very much, members of the
Quite
board, professionals, and public. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will again open it up for public comment on anything else other than the applicants. Hearing none. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make that motion.
Are you a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved.